This is CBN NewsWatch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch for December 18th, 2020. I'm George Thomas. Today, a second coronavirus vaccine inching toward widespread use, the approval that could come within hours, a warning about Iran, and concern about what the Biden administration will do next. Is a nuclear deal on the way? How a new campaign is bringing awareness about the millions trapped in modern-day slavery, and a Starlight event that may have biblical implications. Those stories and much more today on Newswatch. But we begin today on the news of a second coronavirus vaccine is one step closer to approval after the U.S. marked its deadliest 24 hours yet. The Moderna vaccine just got the green light, and the final approval could come within hours. CBN's White House correspondent Ben Kennedy reports.
More than 17 million Americans have COVID, a record 247,000 new cases in 24 hours alone, and more than 3,600 deaths. This as an FDA advisory panel voted 20-0 to recommend emergency use of the Moderna vaccine. They did note some people showed minor reactions, but did not identify any safety concerns.
Moderna certainly will be available soon, have the same level of efficacy, the same safety profile, and virtually everything the same about them. So it wouldn't make much difference which of those you take.
Pfizer's version is already on the road, being given at nearly 600 locations cross-country. Between the two vaccines, officials are expecting some 20 million doses will be distributed by the end of the year. But it's a war on two fronts. The shutdowns due to the pandemic continue to hurt the economy, and millions of Americans are suffering. Thursday's job report shows 885,000 applied for unemployment. Lawmakers are working to pass another round of relief. A roughly $900 billion bill has bipartisan support. It would provide $300 a week in unemployment benefits and a $600 direct stimulus payment to most Americans. It also includes eviction protection and billions for small businesses and vaccine distribution. On CBN's Faith Nation, Chief Political Analyst David Brody said Senate Republicans are holding the line on some Democrat priorities.
What isn't included is money for states and local governments, nor protections against COVID lawsuits for businesses. Where does this leave the relief effort in January with a new administration?
Well, if you notice, those two parts that were not included were things that Mitch McConnell Republicans did not want in the bill. And guess what? They're not going to be in the bill because Mitch McConnell, the Republicans, still control the Senate. We'll see how it goes in January.
Ben Kennedy, CBN News.
Thank you, Ben. Several states, by the way, say they have been told to expect far fewer doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine. Now, there is concern that healthcare workers and long-term care residents will not have immediate access to the medication. Trump administration officials say there is confusion over semantics, and Pfizer says its production level have not changed. The first U.S. doses were administered Monday. Hundreds of thousands of people have been vaccinated already. That pace is expected to increase next week. Earlier this week, U.S. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. During their joint statements, Netanyahu took the opportunity to warn the world about Iran. Take a listen.
As long as Iran continues to subjugate and threaten its neighbors, as long as Iran continues calling for Israel's destruction, as long as Iran continues to bankroll, equip, and train terrorist organizations throughout the region and the world, and as long as Iran persists in its dangerous quest for nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them, we shouldn't go back to business as usual with Iran.
That was Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu with some very strong words. Many Middle East observers felt the statement from Bibi was directed in part at a future Biden administration that has pledged to renegotiate the Iranian nuclear deal. Most Israelis believe the nuclear deal will pave for the Islamic Republic to develop nuclear weapons. Joining me now is Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell. Chris, great to have you on the broadcast this week. Listen, tell us why Netanyahu would be making such a statement at this time.
Well, just a few weeks before a possible future Biden administration, he wants to send that signal to them. Both Biden and Kamala Harris, they've been very clear about going into the Iranian nuclear deal that was abrogated by President Trump about 2018. They want to re-enter it. So this presents a night and day difference from the Trump administration for Israel right now. So Netanyahu's making it clear where Israel stands. And as you said, across the board, Israelis believe that the nuclear deal is a danger to Iran. And I would add, George, that, you know, for Benjamin Netanyahu, this has almost been his life's mission to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. So he's going to be very strong about any future Biden administration that he's going to say this is not acceptable to Israel.
And as you know, Chris, so much has changed in the last 4 years since the Obama-Biden administration. But by the way, you also had an historic visit by a joint Bahraini-Emirati delegation this week in Jerusalem. Why is that so significant?
Well, you know, George, it really ties into the Iranian nuclear deal from a geopolitical point of view. You know, the Bahrainis and the Emiratis, including the Saudis, they also see Iran as a mortal enemy. And so it's just natural for them to make a deal or normalize relations with Israel right now. And so I think that's sort of the impetus of what's happening right now. Also, another issue is the fact that it's the tourism. You have maybe 100,000 tourists that the tourism ministry here in Israel is looking from the UAE alone. Already you have Israelis filling up flights from Tel Aviv to the UAE and Abu Dhabi. It's just an incredible thing. It's also this people-to-people relationship that seems to be growing by the week.
Israel, Chris, continues to deal with COVID. What's the latest there, brother?
Well, the next big thing is tomorrow night, Saturday night, Netanyahu, it's going to be on live TV here in Israel. He's going to be the first one to get the vaccine. Israel's President Reuven Rivlin will follow him. It's almost like Vice President Pence is going to be having the vaccine as well. Israel has bought millions of doses of the vaccines of Pfizer and Moderna. They're looking at maybe vaccinating 60,000 people per day. They're looking at mass vaccinations coming up in the next few weeks. Right now, just like the U.S., there's a rise in cases, and Israel actually might be looking at another lockdown right now.
Okay, Chris, you're the host of Jerusalem Dateline. Tell us what you have on this week's edition.
Well, several things, George. We have a successful anti-missile test between the U.S. and Israel. What they've done is they've actually put their 4 layers, the Arrow, the David Sling, the Iron Dome, the Arrow 2 and 3, all working together as one. And that's also a signal to Iran not to unleash Hezbollah or Hamas and attack Israel. We also have a story about archaeological discovery of oil lamps with both Jewish and Christian symbols from about 1,700 years ago, proving that both Jews and Christians were living side by side back then. And also reading the Bible in the land of the Bible. We're going to be reading from the book of Luke in the Judean wilderness.
Sounds so exciting. You can see more news from the Middle East from Chris and his awesome team tonight on the CBN News Channel at 9:30 Eastern. Vice President Mike Pence, it looks like we are going to take a break for a moment, and we'll be back right after this. Stay with us, folks.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
Welcome back, folks. You're watching the CBN News Channel. Vice President Mike Pence is stumping for the two GOP Georgia senators heading toward a runoff election in just a few weeks. Pence was at a rally in Columbus where supporters cheered for incumbent Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler. His goal to energize the base to get them to the polls. Both races are extremely close against Democrats Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff, and a lot is at stake. If the GOP loses these two seats, the balance of power in Washington will shift to the Democrats. Pence highlighted major accomplishments, giving the two senators credit. Take a listen.
This week, America witnessed the beginning of the end of the coronavirus pandemic. We made history, and the first coronavirus vaccine is being administered in every state in the union. And David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler were there every single day, putting the health of Georgia first. If his people, who are called by his name, will humble themselves and pray and turn, that he'll do like he's always done in the long and storied history of America. He'll hear from heaven, and he'll heal this land.
Yesterday, Pence urged the crowd to vote despite doubts they have about the accuracy of the November election, promising those who vote via absentee will have their ballots counted and that there will be increased election security. Our Mark Martin spoke with Jason Yates of My Faith Votes about their work in Georgia and overall to get people to the polls and vote according to their beliefs. Here's that interview.
Joining us now is Jason Yates with My Faith Votes to talk about the group's work in Georgia. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks so much, Mark.
Your group believes this runoff is not only important to Georgia, but the nation. Besides determining control of the Senate, why does it matter so much?
Yeah, it really matters because when you look at this point in history, this is really the first time that we have an election that is really going to determine in a special way the projection of our nation. And when you look at the different platforms of the parties and look at what's at stake and what they stand for, we just believe that from a faith-based perspective, there's a lot at stake around our values, around where we stand for abortion, where we would take things with the Supreme Court. And it matters. And we don't believe either party should necessarily have full control of taking things more from a power perspective, but that's what we see at stake here, and what's being threatened really from different party platforms.
Tell us about your efforts there in Georgia.
Yeah, we have a lot that we have planned. First, we have a great effort of volunteers from across the nation. We have over 5,000 volunteers that are doing a number of things, primarily writing handwritten postcard messages, sending them to Georgia voters, encouraging them to vote and vote from a place that honors God and honors our biblical values. We're doing that. We are also doing a whole digital marketing campaign called It's Time to Choose. Choosing what's the direction of our nation, where are we headed, and what do they want to see happen, not only in Georgia, but for the nation for years to come. And finally, we are doing a media campaign on radio, on TV, in the newspapers, with messages about what's happening with this election and what people need to know in order to vote.
Jason, there are people of faith supporting both candidates. How does faith override politics in this case, and really where we are as a nation?
Yeah, I think our faith certainly has something essential to contribute to politics. We need to look at what are the values that we stand for. How do we think of life? How do we think of our ability to practice our religion? How do we think about how the government treats people within its communities? It's not easy decisions, and sometimes binary choices are tough. And so we are calling people to pray, to really explore the way candidates, what they represent and how they think about the issues, think biblically about those issues, and pray about those, and then make the very best decision. We know not everybody's going to vote in the exact same way, but I think if they are praying, thinking, and then voting, and voting from a biblical worldview, we'll get God-honoring outcomes.
All right, Jason Yates with My Faith Votes. Thanks for your time, Jason.
Appreciate it, Mark. Thanks.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Catholic Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m.
Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Welcome back, folks. You're watching the CBN News Channel. A global campaign is bringing awareness about the millions of men, women, and children who are trapped in slavery. It's called Can You See Me? And the campaign uses videos, billboards, and posters depicting scenarios of the most common forms of modern-day slavery. Take a look. Joining me now is Molly Thorson, the U.S. Advocacy Director for A21, the group behind the Can You See Me campaign. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast, Molly. More than 40 million people are enslaved today around the world, and often there's this perception that it doesn't happen in the United States, that it happens only in other countries. That's a myth, right?
Exactly. And thank you guys so much for having us today. The scenario you just saw was child online enticement. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children had nearly over 500,000 reports to the hotline this year alone in the United States.
You have 1,000 billboards on major highways around the country and posters in 7 airports. Molly, what's the campaign, the goal of the campaign?
So this campaign was built to bring this awareness. Like you said, not many people know that this is happening in their nation, let alone their states and their towns. So often human trafficking is thought of as this unseen trauma, but really it's hidden in plain sight everywhere you go. So the idea of the campaign was really to bring awareness, distribute the hotline number, which is attached to all of these ads running throughout the nation, and just bring awareness to human trafficking, and that it really is happening here.
Yeah. What are the signs, Molly, to look for if a friend or loved one is caught in a web of human trafficking?
So that's a really good question, George. There are so many different types of human trafficking. There's agricultural labor, there's domestic servitude, there's child online enticement. So each look very different. I would encourage everyone to go to a21.org to look for the signs of each different scenario. But often cases, they're in sex trafficking. You can look for someone who seems malnourished, someone who's younger and dressed up to look older, and someone who's really agitated and maybe doesn't respond when you ask them questions.
And sadly, business is booming right now for traffickers. Despite the pandemic, research shows women and children are at greater risk of violence and trafficking because of COVID, right? And you just mentioned hundreds of thousands of people have been calling this particular hotline that you mentioned.
Yes, exactly. For children, especially with all of the online activity, there's definitely an increase in opportunity for traffickers to contact the vulnerable children across the United States. People are lonely right now, so they're online and they're communicating with people at a much higher rate than they ever have. And that really does bring a lot more opportunity for traffickers to penetrate through the screen and attack the vulnerable.
Yeah. Okay, terrific. Molly, thank you so much for coming on the broadcast. Molly, the U.S. Advocacy Director for A21, the group behind the Can You See Me campaign, a very, very important campaign. Thanks so much for all you do on behalf of those who do not have a voice, okay? You're welcome. Folks, coming up, a Christmas star lighting up the sky. What scientists are saying about the biblical star of Bethlehem. That story in a moment. You don't want to miss it. Stay with us.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link, Tuesday nights at 6:30.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Get Protect Your Sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
Welcome back to the broadcast. Mark your calendars for December 21st. A rare cosmic event will light up the night sky. Some are calling it the Christmas star. But star experts say, not so fast. Wendy Griffith has more.
December 21st is the winter solstice, the darkest night of the year. And in 2020, Saturn and Jupiter, the 2 largest planets in our solar system, will nearly kiss. The closest the 2 planets have aligned in 800 years. The phenomenon has many talking and even singing about it.
And the Christmas star appears, first time in 800 years. You'll see it next Monday night. Yeah, that's the bright side.
No, seriously, Jupiter and Saturn are going to align by less than 1/10 of a degree in the night sky on December 21st. Last time it happened was March 4th, 1226. It's the Christmas star.
Star of Bethlehem expert Rick Larson says while that's true, you'd have to go all the way back to the Middle Ages to see a closer convergence. It's not going to resemble the Christmas star that led the wise men to the baby Jesus.
What's happening on December 21, simply as beautiful as it is not the Star of Bethlehem. The Star of Bethlehem is a conjunction of Jupiter and Venus. The conjunction, which just means a coming together visually, was so close that they basically stacked like a figure 8. And so they didn't obscure one another's brightness. And the result was the brightest star anyone alive had ever seen.
The Bible speaks of the star the wise men saw in Matthew chapter 2. And lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. Many Christians believe the Star of Bethlehem was a miraculous sign to mark the birth of Jesus. And while the 2020 star may not be as bright, the fact that such a rare cosmic event is happening so close to Christmas in a year like 2020 is giving many hope that the God of miracles is still shining his light from above. Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
Thank you so much, folks. This is it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online at cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. Or you can reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. From all of us here from the headquarters of the Christian Broadcasting Network, goodbye. Have a great weekend. Ciao.